Hey everyone, it's Steph here with another scary story, this time by DJBuffoon off the True Scary Stories Reddit. This one is called Creeper in the Woods. Let's get into it. This happened about 13 years ago when I was a sophomore in college attending a liberal arts school in Suffolk County, New York. Within the first month or two of freshman year, I had found myself in a very tight-knit group of fellow theatre geeks. 6 guys, myself included, and 1 girl, and they all loved horror movies and ghost stories. I had found my crew. Freshman year was tough, but we all held each other up and made the whole experience much more enjoyable for one another. At the beginning of sophomore year, we decided that in October, as the Halloween season was ramping up, we would find a creepy wooded spot in a nearby town some night and scare the crap out of ourselves. We did some research and found that there was a particularly isolated area about 30 minutes away, infamous for paranormal sightings. Perfect. The 7 of us split into 2 different cars and headed out into the night. Allow me to set the scene. You turn off a busy main road flooded with strip malls and restaurants and whatnot, and you are almost immediately greeted by complete darkness. Again, this area was very heavily wooded. It was essentially a large web of winding roads surrounded by trees, very few streetlights, and very few houses. Without a GPS or a good sense of direction, one could easily get lost in there. We all made sure to have fully charged phones and flashlights just in case, but the goal was to keep driving until we had collectively decided to pull over and go exploring. So, as per the directions, we made a left off the main road, driving for 30 minutes or so into this dark network, picking directions at random and just getting intentionally lost. Our cars made a turn and, to our surprise, there was a huge log in front of us. We had reached a dead end of some kind, with nothing but trees beyond it. We all got out to see what exactly this was, stepped over the log, and noticed 2 narrow trails leading in different directions. This seemed like as good a time as any to grab our flashlights and do some amateur ghost hunting. We flipped a coin and set off on the trail to the right. The trail was so narrow that we had to walk in single file to avoid getting whacked by branches. For whatever reason, I ended up at the back. I'm usually pretty rational and level-headed, but I have to say the further we went in, the more I was overcome with an uneasy feeling. I kept hearing sounds deep in the wood, unable to shake the feeling we were being watched. But I seemed to be the only one who heard these things, so I shrugged it off as my imagination. And in any case, the whole point of this was for us to get scared. Not to mention the fact that we were 7 able-bodied college students. What would we come across that we couldn't take down? We headed down this trail for about 20 minutes, and just when I thought it would never end, we came to a massive clearing. And I mean massive. It was a large open field of unkempt grass, comparable in scope to a golf course, but not nearly as well manicured. Trees surrounded the entire field, which was so large we could not see the end of it from where we were standing. I was thrilled to get out of that narrow trail, but I don't think any of us were expecting to find an area so vast. One of us looked to the right and said, "Hey, check that out." We all turned, and there was an old, dilapidated house several hundred yards away. The house was completely dark, with no cars or signs of anyone actually living there. We walked over and shined our flashlights at it, and sure enough, the windows and doors were all boarded up. I managed to peer between the boards on one of the windows, and what I could see was an old couch covered in plastic, but otherwise an empty room. Whoever used to live here, they were long gone. Because there was no way in, and because we all felt very much creeped out by the house anyway, we decided to walk closer to the trail we'd come in from and have a seat in the field and figure out where we would go next. We walked towards the narrow trail, but before we could sit, my friend Mark stopped what he was doing. His expression dropped and he pointed. We all turned, and on a very far side of the field, directly across from where we'd come in, we could see someone tall, lanky and pale dancing among the trees. And by dancing, I mean it was skipping around, grabbing a tree, swinging around it, and then doing the same around another tree, basically like a do-si-do. The moon was so bright and the woods so dark, it actually took a second for us to really understand what we were looking at. Jay, the 6'4" skeptic of the group, wasn't seeing it. I leaned into him and pointed in that direction and said, "Jay, look where I'm pointing. Don't you see it?" He squinted a bit, and the second he saw it, he gasped with everything he had, clutched my arm and whispered, "What the fuck is that?" What happened next sent shockwaves through all of us. Whoever this was stopped dancing, looked in our direction, and started charging right at us. Without even thinking, we freaked and ran back to the trail. Yet again, Jay was the only one that didn't see what was happening. He shouted after us, "Guys, what is it? Where are you going?" After about 15 seconds of running like hell, I heard Jay scream, "Holy shit!" I looked back and saw his flashlight following the rest of us into the trail. While the walk into the woods took about 20 minutes, we made it back to our cars, hopped in, and were peeling away in less than 5. Once we were a safe distance away, we pulled over, got out, and checked in with each other about what just happened. My heart was pounding, and I know everyone else was feeling the same. Nearly 15 years later, we are all still friends, living in different states, yet keeping in touch through marriages, divorces, and children, etc. But occasionally, out of the blue, one of us will send a group text to the others with something to the effect of, "The woods, did that really happen?" It most certainly did. That experience is always in the back of my mind, and I'm pretty sure it always will be. Here's the thing that still resonates with me about that night. Whoever that was, they were dancing maniacally in the woods at 1 a.m. and then ran directly after a group of young adults, not at all fazed by the fact that they were severely outnumbered. Did he know we were there from the second we parked? Was he the sound that I kept hearing when we walked on the trail? Whatever the case may be, when he came for us that night, you can be sure none of us wanted to stick around and see what he was truly capable of. Okay, and that brings us to the end of that story. So for me, I really felt like something was going to happen when they got to the house. I assumed when he looked in the window that there was going to be someone staring back at him, or they would figure out a way to get in there and there'd be something going on, ending of Blair Witch type feeling. But no, for it to take the turn and then suddenly there's some evil forest nymph, I'm going to go with, that just comes at them out of nowhere after dancing around. I can get visions of you kind of seeing over your shoulder, looking at the edge of a dark forest and just seeing this weird tall white figure just kind of dancing around, and how that would freak you out if you did actually see that. I can definitely visualize that. I can understand them not wanting to stick around and just getting the hell out of there. But also I'm curious about Jay, why he couldn't see it until it was either on top of him, I guess when it was running at them, or when the other guys pointed it out. Is it a Peter Pan type scenario where you don't see the food on the table until you believe in the food? That's kind of an older movie reference, I suppose, but if you get it, you get it. Do you have to sort of believe in these things to see them in the first place? And if you don't believe in them, it only kind of shows up when it's too late and something's going to go down. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed that story. I've left a link in the description down below. So just to cap it off again, so that was DJBuffoon's story of True Scary Stories on Reddit called Creeper in the Woods. This has been Steph Stark reading scary stories for you today on YouTube, and if you would like me to check out anything else particularly for you, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!